Have you ever felt that family happiness is fragile, easily broken? That a turbulent past and seemingly insurmountable challenges will forever keep you from finding a true home? Mia once thought so, until she found love, acceptance, and a family she never dared to dream of. But is happiness truly lasting? When life throws unexpected twists, how do you hold on to faith and protect what matters most? Join us on this emotional journey, where love, sacrifice, and perseverance create miracles. Amid the hurried crowds of a dusky evening in the city's bustling streets, Lucas Adrian Green, the renowned millionaire with a heart of steel, suddenly came to a halt. His eyes, long accustomed to skimming past the superficial luxuries of life, were drawn to a starkly contrasting image that struck him to the core. Beneath a gray, weathered awning, a frail woman huddled, her emaciated figure resembling a withered autumn leaf. Her tattered clothes, stained with dust from the streets, barely concealed her thin, trembling frame. Tangled hair partially obscured her gaunt, careworn face, etched with the deep lines of suffering. Beside her, two tiny angels, twin girls no older than 3, mirrored the same pitiful state. One little girl sobbed, her tear-filled eyes glistening under the dim light as her tiny hands desperately tried to wipe away the steady stream of tears trickling down her cheeks. "Shoo, my love," the mother's voice quivered, barely more than a whisper, as fragile as a dying leaf trembling in the wind. "Someone will help us, someone will come." Her calloused, bony fingers gently caressed her daughter's tangled hair, a touch filled with boundless love yet weighed down by a heart-wrenching despair. A sharp pang gripped Lucas's chest. That dirt-streaked face, though obscured by hardship and lined with suffering, still bore features that were all too familiar. No, it can't be. Yet his heart insisted otherwise. It was her, Mia Wilson. His first love. The radiant, youthful girl he had once admired from afar. She had been like the moon in the night sky, distant, beautiful, and seemingly unattainable. She had never truly acknowledged his existence, except for the occasional teasing smirk at his clumsy, boyish attempts to gain her attention. And now, here she was, right in front of him, fragile, defeated, a wounded bird lost in a merciless storm. Lucas took a slow step forward, his heart pounding erratically against his ribs. "Mia?" His voice wavered, carrying with it years of buried memories. The woman lifted her head, her wide eyes brimming with disbelief as she recognized the voice from her past. "Lucas?" For a moment, time stood still. The silence between them was heavy, filled with the echoes of the past. Youthful laughter, whispered dreams, bitter disappointments. Then, as if reality crashed upon her like a tidal wave, Mia quickly lowered her gaze, as though wishing she could disappear into the shadows. "What happened to you?" Lucas's voice broke with unguarded concern. Mia tightened her arms around her children, her voice trembling. "We're fine, please just go." But Lucas couldn't look away. He couldn't walk past this as if it meant nothing. One of the twin girls hiccuped from hunger, while the other clung to her mother's arm, her wide eyes staring up at him, part curiosity, part fear. The raw suffering in front of him slashed through his soul like an invisible blade. "You're not fine. Come with me, I'll help you." "No, I can't," Mia whispered, her voice laced with panic. "I'm not leaving you here in the cold." Lucas's voice was resolute. "You're coming with me, and I won't take no for an answer." The twin girls gazed at the unfamiliar man with innocent apprehension, their tear-streaked faces a heartbreaking sight. The one who had been crying pressed her lips together, trying to suppress her sobs. Mia bit her lip, her entire being torn between resistance and the undeniable truth. She had no other choice. Lucas pulled out his phone, his fingers swift as he called his driver. "The car will be here in 5 minutes, he announced, slipping the phone back into his pocket. "Let's go. There's no reason for you to stay here any longer." He extended his hand toward Mia, warm, steady, unwavering. She hesitated but, after a long moment, reluctantly placed her frail hand in his. When the sleek black car rolled to a stop, Lucas gently lifted one of the girls into his arms while Mia carried the other. The children, exhausted beyond measure, nestled into their mother's embrace, instinctively seeking warmth and security. The drive back to the mansion was steeped in silence. Mia stared out the window, lost in thought, while Lucas stole occasional glances at her, trying to piece together the puzzle of her downfall. What had happened? How had the once vibrant girl he remembered fallen into such misery? When they arrived, Mia hesitated, visibly uneasy. The grand estate before her was a stark contrast to the life she now knew. Golden lights glowed warmly from the windows, casting a soft illumination over the sprawling gardens, meticulously maintained. It was a world apart from the cold, unfeeling streets she had called home. "You don't have to do this, Lucas," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're not going to argue about this, Mia," Lucas replied firmly. "You'll come inside, eat something, and get some rest." As the grand doors swung open, the mansion's longtime housekeeper, Hannah, greeted them with a slight but unmistakable flicker of surprise at the sight of their unexpected guests. But she said nothing, merely offering a polite nod before turning to prepare a room. Lucas led Mia and the children into the warmly lit living room. A fire crackled in the hearth, spreading a comforting heat through the space. He motioned for the chef to prepare a hot meal. "Thank you, Lucas. Truly thank you." Mia's voice broke with emotion as she gazed at her sleeping daughters, now curled up on the plush couch, safe and warm for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Lucas merely nodded, his thoughts still tangled in the chaos of emotions. He knew that tonight was only the beginning. Tomorrow, he needed answers. He needed to know what had truly happened to Mia, how her life had unraveled into this tragic fate. As dawn's first light crept through the windows, Mia sat at the edge of the bed, her tired eyes watching over her daughters, Hannah and Lillian, still deep in their slumber. After so many nights spent in the cold, tonight had been the first time they had slept peacefully, their tiny bodies wrapped in warmth and security. Yet, instead of relief, Mia felt a lump rise in her throat. The contrast between this moment and the harsh reality she had endured was almost too much to bear. Elsewhere in the mansion, in the quiet solitude of his study, Lucas sat deep in thought. The image of Mia and her children, curled up in misery on the street, haunted him. He couldn't push it away. He needed to understand. Because the Mia he once knew, the girl who had been so full of life, so bright, so destined for something greater, was not the same woman he had found. Last night, a soft knock on the door pulled Lucas from his thoughts, and he turned as the housekeeper, Hannah, stepped inside. "Miss Wilson," Mrs. Hannah's gentle voice broke the stillness of the night. "Breakfast is ready. Mr. Lucas is expecting you and the young ladies to come down." Mia softly murmured her acknowledgement, a deep sense of gratitude welling up in her heart. She gently roused her two little daughters from their slumber. A few minutes later, the three of them made their way down the finely carved mahogany staircase, heading towards the sunlit dining room. The dining room unfolded before them like a masterpiece, with a long table draped in a pristine white tablecloth, adorned with an array of delectable dishes, their enticing aroma filling the air. The twins, Hannah and Lillian, squealed in delight, their tiny feet scampering toward their seats, eyes wide with wonder at the sight of fresh, juicy fruit, golden brown bread, and glasses of glistening orange juice. Mia entered the room and hesitated briefly, momentarily overwhelmed by the lavish surroundings. A trace of unease flickered across her face. "Please have a seat." Lucas's warm voice resonated from the doorway. He stood there, composed in a crisp white shirt, yet his deep eyes carried both sternness and concern. "Thank you, sir," Mia murmured, pulling out a chair and sitting down, her gaze filled with affection as she watched her daughters relish their breakfast. The meal unfolded in silence, a silence that felt strained, uneasy, between Lucas and Mia. He knew he had to tread carefully, but a persistent determination burned within him. He needed to understand Mia's story. Once the girls had eaten their fill, the housekeeper tenderly led them to the playroom nearby. Mia remained at the table, facing Lucas, with only the quiet space between them. Resting his elbows on the table, Lucas fixed his unwavering gaze on her, his voice steady yet gentle. "Mia, we need to talk. I want to understand what happened to you." Mia averted his probing gaze, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "It's not a story worth telling. I'm not here to judge you," Lucas interjected, carefully choosing his words. "It's just that, when I saw you and the girls yesterday, I could tell you had been through a difficult time. And I know, things like this don't happen overnight." "Mia, what exactly happened to you?" Mia drew a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment as if bracing herself against a flood of emotions. Then, in a voice tinged with sorrow, she began. "After graduating high school, I started dating James Alexander Smith. You remember him, don't you? The most popular guy in school." Lucas gave a curt nod, his jaw tightening. The name James Alexander Smith stirred unpleasant memories within him. He remembered James all too well, charming, admired by many, but beneath the polished facade lay a heart as cold and ruthless as they come. "James and I started dating right after the prom. I truly loved him, and in my naivete, I believed he felt the same way." Mia's voice faltered, her eyes clouded with a distant sadness. A few months later, I found out I was pregnant. I told James, thinking we would face it together. But he abandoned me. He said he wasn't ready to be a father and refused to take any responsibility. Mia's voice broke, choked with emotion. That was the last time I ever saw him. Lucas clenched his fists on the table, struggling to contain the anger that surged through him. He abandoned you? He asked, his voice unsteady with suppressed rage. Mia nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. Yes. I was completely alone, with no one to turn to. My parents, they couldn't do much to help. I did everything I could to provide for my children, but it was never enough. Then I lost my job, and over time, the bills kept piling up. By the time Hannah and Lillian turned 2, we were evicted from our apartment. From that moment on, we lived on the streets, relying on the kindness of strangers. Lucas listened in silence, his heart constricting painfully. The strong, resilient girl he once knew had been battered and broken by life's cruel hand. Why didn't you ask for help? He finally asked, his voice much softer now. I was ashamed, Mia admitted in a whisper, as if exhaling a long-held burden. Ashamed of how my life had fallen apart. I didn't want anyone to see me like this. Especially not someone like you. Lucas took a deep breath, emotions warring within him, pity, sadness, but above all, a fierce resolve. Mia, he said, his voice steady and sincere, no one should have to go through this alone. You're not alone anymore. I'll help you. I'll help you and your daughters get back on your feet. Why, Lucas? Mia looked up at him, doubt and confusion swirling in her eyes. Why are you doing all this for me? Lucas hesitated, but he knew he had to be honest. Because no matter how many years had passed, Mia had never truly left his heart. He had cared for her all along, in silence, in secret, never once wavering. Mia sat in silence, unable to find the words to respond. Lucas's words echoed in her mind, a gentle note in the melancholic melody of her life. For the first time in years, a glimmer of hope flickered in her heart. But she also knew that accepting Lucas's help meant confronting her deepest fears and rebuilding her life from the ashes. That night, as Mia gently tucked her daughters into bed, she lay awake, mulling over Lucas's words. For the first time in her long, dark journey, she felt the warmth of a guiding light. Yet deep down, an unshakable fear lingered. Accepting Lucas's help, was it the right choice? Could she overcome the shame and self-doubt that weighed her down and embrace a new life? The next morning, golden sunlight streamed through the grand windows of the estate, pulling Mia from sleep. She awoke to the sound of Hannah and Lillian's cheerful giggles. The 2 little angels were happily playing on the plush rug beside her bed. For a fleeting moment, Mia felt as though she were dreaming. It was hard to believe that just the day before, she and her daughters had been huddled on a cold sidewalk, unsure of where their next meal would come from. Stretching gently, she called her daughters to get ready. Fresh, neatly pressed clothes had already been laid out for them by Mrs. Hannah, a thoughtful gesture that touched Mia's heart. Though she still felt out of place in this lavish setting, she knew that for the sake of her daughters, she had to be strong. As the 3 of them descended the staircase for breakfast, Lucas was already in the sitting room, reviewing some documents. He looked up at the sound of the twins' excited chatter and greeted them with a warm smile. "Good morning, my little princesses," he said fondly. Hannah eagerly nodded, her eyes sparkling with delight, while Lillian, still shy, clung to her mother's side, grasping Mia's hand tightly. "Good morning," Mia responded softly, her voice tinged with gratitude. "The girls told me this was the best night's sleep they've had in a long time." "I'm glad to hear that," Lucas smiled, gesturing for them to take their seats. "Today, you don't have to worry about a thing. Just rest. The girls can play in the garden or anywhere they like." Mia hesitated before speaking, her voice still uncertain. "Lucas, I don't know how to thank you properly, but I don't want to take advantage of your kindness. As soon as I can, I'll find a job and—" Lucas raised a hand, gently stopping her. "There's no rush, Mia. Before anything else, you need to regain your strength. Don't worry about time, we'll figure everything out together." Despite Lucas's reassuring words, Mia couldn't shake off the weight pressing on her heart. Accepting help had never been easy for her. But for her daughters, she would endure anything. For their future, she would set aside her pride, accept Lucas's kindness, and take the first steps toward a better life. After a hearty breakfast, Mia swallowed the last remnants of her pride, her heart still heavy with guilt for having received so much kindness. Hannah and Lillian had been taken to the garden by the housekeeper, their bright laughter echoing back, dispelling some of the weight in her heart. Mia offered to help Mrs. Hannah with the kitchen chores, her hands swiftly washing each plate and bowl, eager to contribute something, anything, to ease her feeling of being a burden. Lucas suddenly stepped into the kitchen and shook his head at the sight of Mia diligently working over a stack of dishes. "Mia, you don't have to do this," he said gently, his voice filled with quiet reassurance. "But I need to do something, Lucas," Mia replied, her tone slightly stubborn. "I feel uncomfortable just receiving without giving anything in return." Lucas took a step closer, his voice patient. "If it makes you feel better, then go ahead. But right now, I want to talk about the girls. Do they have everything they need?" Mia paused, thinking for a moment. The truth was, Hannah and Lillian still lacked many things, especially clothes and shoes. Their current outfits were worn and threadbare, and their shoes had scuffed soles. "Maybe they could use some new clothes and shoes," Mia admitted hesitantly. "Perfect. Then let's go shopping for them," Lucas exclaimed, his eyes twinkling with enthusiasm. Mia stared at him in surprise. "But that's not necessary, Lucas. You've already done so much for us." "Mia," Lucas interrupted gently, "I can handle it. Don't feel like you have to hold back with me." He smiled warmly, dissolving the last of Mia's reservations. "All right then, I'll have the car ready in half an hour." In the bustling city center, Mia and her daughters found themselves in a vibrant children's clothing store. Lucas watched quietly from a distance, his heart swelling with joy as Hannah and Lillian ran excitedly through the aisles, eagerly admiring and trying on various outfits. "Mommy, can I really choose this dress?" Hannah's voice rang out, her eyes shining like a sky full of stars as she cradled a shimmering blue dress. Mia's heart tightened at the sight of her daughter's radiant expression, filled with hope. "Yes, sweetheart, you can," she said with a gentle smile. Lillian, the quieter of the twins, shyly held up a pair of brand-new sneakers and hesitated. "And me? Can I have these shoes too, Mommy?" Mia nodded, her smile brimming with love and emotion. "Yes, my darling, you can have them too." Lucas observed the trio in silence, his heart swelling with quiet happiness. Seeing Hannah and Lillian so cheerful and carefree, after all they had endured, filled him with an indescribable sense of fulfillment. After selecting enough clothes, shoes, and a few small toys, Lucas took the family to a cozy restaurant for lunch. Throughout the meal, the twins chattered excitedly, exchanging childhood stories and bursting into giggles. Mia watched them fondly, a deep sense of relief and serenity washing over her. For the first time in what felt like forever, she saw her children smiling without the shadow of hardship looming over them. "Lucas, you've already done so much for us today," Mia murmured, her voice filled with sincerity and gratitude. "Don't dwell on it," Lucas replied with his usual nonchalance. "I'm only doing what anyone should do." Mia lowered her gaze, a familiar sense of shame creeping back into her heart. She knew Lucas was trying to be kind, but she couldn't forget the way she had treated him in the past. "You're a much better person than I am, Lucas," she whispered so softly it was almost inaudible. Lucas frowned slightly, his tone more serious now. "Mia, the past is the past. What matters is what we do now, and where we go from here." Mia nodded slightly, though the guilt still simmered within her. When they returned to the estate, the twins darted straight to the garden, eagerly showing off their new clothes to the housekeeper. Mia stood silently by the living room window, watching her daughters play, a soft smile forming on her lips. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of safety and peace. Lucas stood beside her, breaking the silence with his warm voice. "Hannah and Lillian, they're such wonderful little girls, aren't they? They are your strength, the reason you kept going even in the worst moments. They gave you a purpose, to live and hope for the future." He turned to look at Mia, admiration gleaming in his eyes. "You're stronger than you think, Mia. You've endured so much, yet you're still standing. Not everyone could do that." Mia let out a soft sigh, her voice tinged with bittersweet emotion. "I don't know if it's strength, or just the stubbornness of a mother. But either way, thank you, Lucas." Lucas smiled, his gaze filled with kindness. "If you ever need anything, Mia, you know you can always count on me." Mia nodded, and for the first time in a long while, she felt she could truly trust someone else, a man as kind and sincere as Lucas. The next morning, Mia awoke to the soft glow of sunlight filtering through the curtains. Hannah and Lillian were still fast asleep, their faces peaceful and free from the worries that had once haunted them. Mia gazed at them quietly, a wave of relief and hope swelling in her chest. Perhaps starting over, building a brighter future, was truly possible after all. After getting dressed, she went downstairs and found Lucas in the kitchen, sipping a steaming cup of coffee while reading the newspaper. He looked up at the sound of her footsteps, greeting her with a warm smile. Good morning, Mia. Did you sleep well? Yes, thank you. And you? Like a rock, Lucas replied with a chuckle as he folded the newspaper and stood up. Let me make you a cup of coffee. Sit down and relax. Mia murmured a soft thank you, feeling an unfamiliar but comforting ease settle over her. She took a sip of the hot coffee, letting its mild bitterness spread across her tongue. Lucas sat across from her, his voice steady and thoughtful. I was thinking, now that the girls are settled and comfortable, maybe it's time we focus on you, Mia. Focus on me? She repeated, puzzled. Yes, Lucas nodded. I remember you once said you wanted to find a job, so you could support the girls. What kind of work are you looking for? Mia fell silent, lost in thought. I don't have a high degree, so my options are probably limited, she admitted. But I'm willing to do anything, as long as it helps me provide for my daughters. Lucas nodded thoughtfully. That makes sense. But what if you could study a bit more, get a qualification, and find a job that gives you real stability and fulfillment? Mia's eyes widened in shock. Studying? That's impossible, Lucas. She shook her head, disbelief laced in her voice. I don't have the time, nor the money, to go back to school. You'll have both, Lucas said firmly, his gaze steady. I can help with your tuition, and I'll make sure the girls are well taken care of while you study. Mia still shook her head, her voice trembling. I can't believe this. You've already done too much for us, Lucas. I can't accept anything more. Lucas leaned forward slightly, his expression turning serious. Mia, this isn't just about you. It's about Hannah and Lillian, too. If you have a chance to get an education and build a brighter future, then that's the greatest gift you can give them in the long run. Please think about it carefully. His sincere, heartfelt words struck deep within Mia's heart. She knew he was right, but deep down, she was still fighting against the pride and insecurities that had been ingrained in her for so long. On a quiet evening, after soothing the twins to sleep, Lucas expressed his desire to meet Mia in his private study. The soft golden glow from the vintage desk lamp cast a warm, elegant ambience, yet the atmosphere carried an unusual sense of solemnity. Mia, Lucas spoke, his deep voice breaking the silence, I have something important to discuss with you. In fact, I have a proposal for you. With that, he handed Mia a small ivory-colored envelope. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it, revealing neatly arranged documents detailing business and entrepreneurship courses. I want you to consider enrolling in these courses, Lucas continued, his gaze filled with trust. You are an intelligent and strong-willed woman, and I believe you have the potential to achieve great things. These courses will equip you with the necessary tools to stand on your own feet and build a brighter future for your daughters. Mia stared at the papers in her hands, her mind racing to process Lucas's unexpected offer. Lucas, this might be too much for me, she hesitated, her voice uncertain. I'm not sure if I can do it. Mia, Lucas reassured her gently. You are more capable than you think, and you don't have to decide right now. Take your time, think it over. Mia tightened her grip on the documents, torn between an overwhelming fear and a flickering hope. In the days that followed, Lucas's proposal echoed in her mind, urging her toward a decision. She began seriously contemplating the courses, her future, and the future of her children. Gradually, she realized that this could be the golden opportunity to change her fate and, more importantly, to secure a bright future for Hannah and Lillian, one they truly deserved. After many sleepless nights of deliberation, Mia finally chose to cast aside her fears and accept Lucas's proposal. With his unwavering support, she embarked on an intense period of study. By day, she buried herself in textbooks and lengthy lectures, while the twins were carefully looked after by their nanny, Hannah. The initial days were grueling, filled with exhaustion and self-doubt, but Mia felt a newfound energy rising within her. She became fascinated by the knowledge she was absorbing, rediscovering parts of herself she had long forgotten. Each day became another step forward in her journey towards self-reinvention, and she held on to the belief that she was laying the foundation for a stable future for herself and her daughters. Lucas closely followed her progress, offering encouragement and support whenever she needed it. He knew that Mia had to believe in herself, in the untapped potential within her, just as he had always believed in her. And soon enough Mia, too, came to realize that Lucas had become an irreplaceable part of her life. His warm presence, genuine care, and unwavering support slowly dismantled the emotional barriers she had built around her heart over the years. Mia's daily routine underwent a rapid transformation. Every morning, After Hannah and Lillian had had their fill of playing in the garden, Mia would retreat to the private study that Lucas had meticulously arranged for her. She immersed herself in books, losing herself in pages filled with new concepts and ideas. At first, every chapter felt like an insurmountable mountain, daunting and unfamiliar. But as time passed, she found her own rhythm in learning. Lucas's steady and relentless encouragement became her driving force, pushing her to keep going. One afternoon, bathed in golden sunlight, Mia was engrossed in reviewing her meticulously written notes when Lucas suddenly entered the room. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by an uncharacteristic seriousness. A deep instinct told Mia that something was wrong. "We need to talk," Lucas said, closing the door behind him. His voice was low, resonating in the still air. Mia's heart clenched, a wave of unease creeping into her thoughts. What is it, Lucas?" she asked, anxiety creeping into her tone. "I found someone from your past," Lucas said as he took a seat across from her. James Alexander Smith. The name rang out like a thunderclap in a clear sky, making Mia's heart skip a beat. James, the man who had cruelly abandoned her when she was at her weakest and needed him the most. James, the father of her daughters, who had never once acknowledged their existence. Mia took a deep breath, struggling to steady herself, suppressing the torrent of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. What does he have to do with any of this?" she asked, trying to maintain a calm facade, though deep down, she knew a storm was brewing. "I looked into a few things," Lucas admitted, his voice firm. "I wanted to understand what really happened to you after high school. I found James and I decided to confront him." You did what?" Mia shot up from her seat, eyes wide in shock. "I needed to know the truth about what he did to you and why he so heartlessly abandoned you and the girls," Lucas stated, his tone resolute, leaving no room for doubt. "Lucas, you had no right to do that," Mia nearly shouted, her emotions unraveling. "Perhaps not," Lucas admitted, meeting her gaze unwaveringly. "But I did it for you, Mia." Mia fell silent, clutching her chest as she fought to contain the storm of emotions raging inside her. She knew Lucas had acted out of concern for her, but dredging up her painful past, bringing James back into her life, felt like reopening an old wound that had never truly healed. What did he say?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper, laced with trepidation. Lucas leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, his eyes dark with sorrow. "He admitted everything. He knew you were pregnant, but he didn't want to take responsibility. He said disappearing from your life was the easiest solution." Mia felt her anger surge like a tidal wave. She had expected nothing different from James, yet hearing those words still left her reeling. "Did he even mention the girls?" she asked, her voice trembling, her eyes welling up with unshed tears. "No," Lucas replied, his expression darkening. "He didn't even ask about them." Mia clenched her fists, holding back the tears that threatened to spill. Though she despised James, a small part of her had always harbored the faint hope that one day he would express regret, or at the very least curiosity, about the daughters he had abandoned. Lucas stood up and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Mia, you don't have to face this alone. I'm here." She looked at him, battling the overwhelming urge to collapse into his embrace. "Thank you, Lucas," she whispered. "But some things I have to face on my own." Night fell. After gently lulling her two little angels into a peaceful sleep, Mia sat silently at the kitchen table, her gaze fixed on a cup of tea that had long since gone cold. Lucas's words echoed in her mind, their warm and gentle tones tinged with an unmistakable weight. And then, like an unshakable ghost, James's shadow crept back into her consciousness, casting a somber haze over her soul. Mia knew that if she wanted to move forward, she had no choice but to face her past, once and for all. In the days that followed, Mia forced herself to return to her daily routine, but her thoughts remained restless, unable to focus on anything. The memories of James and the confrontation Lucas had mentioned weighed on her heart like an anchor, holding her back, refusing to let her go. Lucas, ever perceptive, noticed the change in her demeanor but chose to remain silent, giving her the space to think and make her own decision. Then, on an early morning when the first rays of sunlight timidly peeked through the curtains, Mia made a bold decision, one that could change her life entirely. With an unusual resolve, she picked up the phone, dialed the number, and called James. The dial tone rang on for what felt like an eternity before James finally answered. His voice, cold and indifferent, struck Mia's heart like a splash of icy water. "James, it's Mia. We need to talk." A heavy silence followed, broken only by the sound of James exhaling tiredly. Talk! Mia, how long has it been? What could you possibly have to say now? It's about our daughters, Mia said, keeping her voice as steady as she could. I know you never wanted to be involved in their lives, but that needs to change. Not for you, but for them. James let out another sigh, this one full of irritation. Mia, I've already made it clear, I don't want to be a part of this. What more do you want me to say? You want an apology? Sorry, but I don't. Mia felt as if her heart were being squeezed, a sharp pain spreading through her chest. But she refused to let her voice waver, refused to sound weak. I just want you to understand that you can't keep running from this forever. You can't ignore their existence as if they don't matter. You can't pretend like none of this ever happened, as if you'll never have to face them or take responsibility as a father. James cut her off, his voice still cold, still detached. Mia, I've moved on. And I think you should too. Before she could respond, he hung up, leaving nothing but the endless, hollow beeping in her ear. Mia stood frozen, her hands trembling as she gripped the phone, trying to process the emptiness, the finality of it all. This was the closure she had long awaited, yet it also confirmed the harsh truth. James would never want to be part of their daughters' lives. That evening, when Lucas returned to the mansion, he found Mia sitting quietly on the long couch in the living room. Hannah and Lillian were fast asleep beside her, their angelic faces resting peacefully against their mother's side. Lucas sat down beside her without a word, waiting for her to speak first. I talked to James, Mia finally whispered, breaking the silence. Her voice was hoarse, weighed down by an indescribable sorrow. Lucas frowned slightly, concern flickering in his eyes. And how did it go? Just as I expected, Mia exhaled, a bitter smile on her lips. He wants nothing to do with us. He feels nothing. Lucas clenched his fists, his anger evident. He doesn't know what he's missing. Mia shook her head gently, her gaze softening as she looked at her sleeping daughters. No, Lucas. I didn't do this for him. I did this for them. I just needed to be sure there was nothing left to hope for. And now? Lucas asked, his voice quieter, more understanding. Now, I move forward, Mia said, her tone resolute. I won't let my daughters grow up under the shadow of an absent, indifferent father. Lucas nodded, admiration shining in his eyes. He knew that deep inside, Mia still carried wounds that had yet to heal. But he could also see the fire in her, a new determination burning brightly, ready to rise above the past. The next morning, Lucas surprised Mia with a small gift, a leather-bound notebook and an elegant fountain pen. This is? Mia asked, flipping through the crisp, blank pages. A tool for you to plan your future, Lucas replied with a warm smile. I want you to write down all your goals, your dreams, and everything you need to do to achieve them. And we'll work on them together. Mia's lips curved into a soft smile, deeply touched by his thoughtfulness. Thank you, Lucas, she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know what I would do without you. You're already doing it, Mia, Lucas said gently. You're rebuilding your life. I'm just here to make sure you have everything you need to succeed. With Lucas's unwavering support, Mia threw herself into her studies, determined to build a better future for herself and her daughters. The conversation with James, though painful, had brought an unexpected sense of liberation. She no longer needed to look back at the darkness of her past. As her life gradually fell into place, Mia became more disciplined and focused. She devoted herself entirely to her education and her daughters, while Lucas remained by her side, offering his silent yet steadfast encouragement. Their bond grew deeper, not through grand gestures, but through quiet understanding and small, meaningful acts of care. One late afternoon, as Mia reviewed her notes in the living room, Lucas walked in, holding a thick stack of documents and wearing a mysterious smile. What's this? Mia asked, looking up curiously. A new opportunity, Lucas said, handing her the papers. Inside was a set of documents and a preliminary contract. Mia's eyes skimmed the title, Project Assistant, Lucas Enterprises. She furrowed her brows and looked at Lucas in surprise. You're offering me a job? I don't want to pressure you, Lucas said quickly. But I think this could be a great starting point for your career. It'll give you the chance to apply what you've been learning, while still having a flexible schedule to balance work, school, and taking care of the girls. Mia hesitated, scanning the contract. The terms were generous, almost too good to be true. But working directly with Lucas, would it be too complicated? Would it affect their relationship? Lucas, Mia murmured, still uncertain. I don't know if I'm the right person for this. I have no experience. Lucas met her gaze with unwavering confidence. Mia, you have more experience than you think. You're a fast learner, and you've already proven that you can overcome anything. And just to be clear, I'm not offering you this job out of kindness. I genuinely believe in your potential. His sincerity struck a chord in Mia. She could feel his trust in her, his belief in what she could achieve. Accepting this job would be a turning point in her life. But could she really live up to his expectations? After a long pause, Mia took a deep breath, looked up at Lucas, and smiled, a soft yet determined smile. All right, I'll do it. Lucas's face lit up, his excitement unmistakable. You won't regret this. We'll take it one step at a time, and you'll see you're capable of so much more than you realize. The next morning, Mia was warmly introduced by Lucas to the members of his team. Though she couldn't shake off a lingering sense of nervousness, she quickly realized that Lucas had carefully chosen colleagues who were patient and understanding, willing to guide her through each step. The new job required meticulous attention to even the smallest details and strict time management skills, but Mia embraced every challenge with unwavering determination, like a lotus flower rising resiliently from the mud. Hannah and Lillian, the twin daughters, also seemed to sense the positive changes in their mother's life. They became happier and more settled into their new routine. In the afternoons, the girls would either play joyfully in the lush green garden or eagerly draw in the cozy kitchen. Their innocent laughter and boundless energy filled the once quiet and lonely mansion, breathing new life into it. Lucas, too, made time to join in the children's playful activities, wanting to nurture and strengthen his bond with the two sweet and carefree little girls. One late evening, as Mia was still engrossed in reviewing thick reports in the office, Lucas quietly stepped in, carrying 2 steaming cups of tea. The gentle aroma drifted through the room as he placed one beside her, and then sat down on a nearby couch, his gaze filled with warmth. You're doing great, Lucas remarked softly, his deep voice carrying an unmistakable note of sincerity. Mia's face lit up with a bright smile, her cheeks slightly flushed. I still have so much to learn, but I'm really enjoying these challenges. That's what truly matters, Lucas smiled, admiration shining in his eyes. Growth and progress come from relentless effort, and you're proving to me just how incredibly strong you are. Mia instinctively looked away, lowering her gaze to hide the emotions welling up inside her. His words were like a comforting flame, warming her heart and igniting a newfound sense of belief and hope within her. Thank you for believing in me, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas didn't reply with words. He simply smiled, a gentle and reassuring smile, as radiant and warm as the morning sun. The silence that followed was not awkward or uneasy, but rather peaceful, almost intimate, as if an unspoken understanding had formed between them, needing no words to be expressed. Over the following weeks, the connection between Mia and Lucas deepened, becoming stronger and more profound. Subtle yet meaningful gestures, lingering glances, accidental yet gentle touches, revealed an unspoken undercurrent of emotions neither was ready to acknowledge. Something undefined, yet undeniable, was quietly changing between them. One afternoon, during a particularly intense team meeting, Mia boldly presented a creative and daring idea, an innovative solution to streamline the logistics of a crucial project. Her unique approach left everyone in the room both surprised and impressed. Lucas, presiding over the meeting, could not hide his pride and admiration. With a broad smile, he didn't hesitate to offer her genuine praise. A fantastic suggestion, Mia, he said enthusiastically. We'll implement this immediately. Mia smiled in response, expressing her gratitude. A deep sense of confidence and fulfillment welled up inside her, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. At the end of the long workday, as they walked together to the parking lot, Lucas suddenly stopped, his gaze gentle yet intense as he looked into Mia's eyes. Mia, he called softly, his voice smooth and melodious, do you realize how much you've grown and changed since you first came here? Mia shook her head slightly, offering a small, wistful smile. I still feel like I have so much to prove. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, Mia, Lucas stated firmly, sincerity evident in his voice. You're already remarkable just as you are. Mia's heart skipped a beat, a rush of emotions flooding through her. In that fleeting moment, the world around them seemed to blur and fade. Lucas took a step closer, as if wanting to say more, but just then, the joyful voices of the twins rang out from the distance, interrupting the moment. Mommy! Mommy, look at what we drew! Hannah and Lillian ran toward them, excitedly holding up their colorful drawings. Mia laughed, quickly kneeling down to embrace her daughters. Lucas silently watched the heartwarming scene unfold before him, a soft smile playing on his lips. A deep, quiet happiness filled his heart, a simple yet profound joy in just being there with Mia and the children, sharing these precious, peaceful moments of life. That night, after putting the twins to sleep, Mia sat by the window, gazing at the star-filled sky, lost in thought. She reflected on the incredible changes that had taken place in her life over the past few months. Lucas's unwavering support, the warmth in his words, and the way he constantly encouraged her to move forward meant more to her than she could ever put into words. As she lay down, conflicting emotions swirled within her, deep gratitude mixed with an unspoken fear. She knew her heart was slowly opening to Lucas, but part of her still hesitated, afraid to let go, afraid to love again after all the pain she had endured. In another part of the vast mansion, Lucas, too, lay awake, unable to sleep. He sat alone in the dimly lit living room, his eyes fixed on the flickering flames in the fireplace. His mind was consumed by thoughts of Mia. There was something about the way she sometimes shielded her heart, about the contrast between her outer strength and the fragile, tender soul hidden beneath, that made him worry for her. He knew they needed an honest conversation, to lay bare their feelings and confront whatever lay between them. On a fresh morning, as Hannah and Lillian played in the garden, Lucas seized the moment to approach Mia. She was in the kitchen, efficiently unpacking the groceries just delivered. Lucas quietly stepped inside, watching her in silence for a long moment before finally breaking it with a gentle voice. "Mia," Lucas called softly, his deep and warm voice echoing, pulling Mia out of her wandering thoughts. She paused, sensing something unusual in his tone. Her intuition told her that this was not an ordinary conversation. "Yes, what is it?" Mia responded, her eyes filled with curiosity. Lucas gestured for her to follow him into the living room. The morning sunlight still gently filled the space, but the atmosphere felt heavier than usual. They sat down together on the soft sofa, and Lucas cleared his throat before speaking. "There's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time," Lucas hesitated, his voice uncertain. "But I'm not sure if you're ready to hear it." Mia leaned slightly forward, her heartbeat quickening, anticipation building as she waited for his next words. "What is it, Lucas?" Mia asked softly, her voice slightly trembling. "Mia," Lucas continued, looking straight into her eyes with deep sincerity, "I admire your strength and your incredible resilience. But I can also sense that deep inside, you're still carrying a lot of guilt and self-doubt. I think it's time you allowed yourself to let go of the past." Mia turned her face away slightly, a flicker of unease in her gaze. Lucas' words had struck a delicate chord within her. "Lucas," Mia murmured, her voice choked with emotion. "I know. I've made so many mistakes in the past. I made choices, wrong choices, that led me to where I am today. And sometimes, I feel like I don't deserve the good life you've given me." Lucas shook his head gently, his eyes soft as they rested on Mia. "Mia, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. That's an inevitable part of life. But you have done everything you could to overcome the hardships fate has thrown your way. You deserve happiness. You deserve all the best things in life, and more." Lucas' words felt like a soothing rain, quenching the dryness of Mia's weary soul, like a balm easing the wounds she had tried so hard to hide. She took a deep breath, knowing that it was time to confront the deep-seated fears that had haunted her for so long. "Lucas," Mia whispered, her voice trembling, You've never truly apologized to me for the way you treated me when we were younger." Her voice caught, the painful memories rushing back, constricting her heart. "I was selfish and immature," Mia continued, her voice quivering. "I didn't see the value of the people around me. I hurt you deeply." "Mia," Lucas gently interrupted, his voice warm and filled with remorse. "I'm sorry, Mia. I truly am sorry for everything you had to endure." He fell silent for a moment, carefully listening to each word from Mia's heart. Finally, he spoke again, his voice as tender as a comforting embrace. "Mia, the past is truly behind us. We have both changed. We've grown so much. And what matters most now is what we are building together, in the present and in the future. I forgive you, Mia, from the bottom of my heart, and I hope that you can forgive yourself too." Hot tears welled in Mia's eyes and streamed down her pale cheeks. But this time, they weren't tears of sorrow or despair. They were tears of relief, of peace. It felt as if the invisible burden that had weighed on her shoulders for years had finally been lifted. She looked up at Lucas, their eyes meeting, his filled with understanding, empathy, and shared emotions. "Thank you, Lucas," Mia whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for everything." "You don't need to thank me," Lucas smiled, his voice as gentle as a spring breeze. "I'm here because I want to be." At that moment, a new chapter in their lives began. The tensions and wounds of the past slowly faded, making way for understanding, compassion, and trust. Both of them felt, at last, that they had fully opened their hearts to each other, with no more barriers or distance between them. In the following days, Mia felt an unprecedented sense of relief and tranquility in her heart. She poured her heart and soul into work and studies with a newfound enthusiasm and passion. Lucas remained by her side, silently supporting and encouraging her every step of the way. One peaceful evening, after lulling the twins into a deep sleep, Mia happened to see Lucas sitting alone on the rocking chair in the garden. The soft moonlight cast a silvery glow on his face, making him appear thoughtful and introspective. "Are you okay, Lucas?" Mia asked softly, then gently sat down beside him. Lucas gave a faint smile, his gaze shifting towards Mia. "Yeah, I'm just lost in thought. I was thinking about how much our lives have changed. I still remember that first night I saw you, alone and lost on the cold sidewalk. I never dared to imagine that one day we would be sitting here, together, like this." "I feel the same," Mia admitted quietly, her voice contemplative. "But I'm also glad that it happened. I'm glad that you came into my life." The silence between them enveloped the space, not awkward or uncomfortable, but instead soothing and peaceful, as if an unspoken harmony existed between them, eliminating the need for words. Lucas turned slightly to look at Mia. The gentle moonlight reflected in her eyes, shimmering like the stars in the night sky. He knew, without a doubt, that his heart belonged entirely to her. He loved her, not just for her strength and resilience, but also for the fragile, vulnerable beauty hidden beneath. However, Lucas didn't want to rush things. He wanted everything to unfold naturally, at its own pace, allowing them both the time to truly understand and connect with each other. "Mia," Lucas finally broke the sweet silence, "do you believe in second chances?" Mia smiled faintly, contemplating his question for a moment. I'm starting to believe in them," she replied gently. Lucas nodded slightly, his eyes gleaming with encouragement at her response. He knew that something special was forming between them, a bond that was deep, genuine, and something they both desperately needed in their lives. But he also understood that only time could nurture and strengthen that bond, making it more unbreakable with each passing day. The next morning, Lucas decided to surprise Mia and the twins with a small yet meaningful gesture. He had secretly arranged a day trip to a lush green farm in the city's outskirts, a place where the whole family could spend an entire day immersed in nature, far away from the bustling, noisy city life. Hannah and Lillian were ecstatic when Lucas enthusiastically shared his special plan. The two little girls jumped up and down, cheering and clapping in excitement. Mia, though surprised, felt an overwhelming sense of joy and gratitude. She was thankful that Lucas had given her the opportunity to spend quality time with her daughters, and with him. That day, the farm was filled with laughter and unforgettable moments. The twins eagerly fed the baby lambs, ran joyfully through vibrant flower fields, and relished delicious, freshly made ice cream from pure, fresh milk. Throughout the trip, Mia found herself growing even closer to Lucas. He seamlessly blended into the world of Hannah and Lillian, playing and talking with them effortlessly, as if he had always been a part of their little family. By the end of the day, as the family drove back to the villa, Hannah and Lillian had fallen into a deep sleep in the back seat, their faces still radiating pure happiness despite their exhaustion from a full day of fun. Mia quietly watched Lucas, who was focused on driving, a gentle, warm smile gracing his lips. "Thank you for today," Mia whispered, her voice as soft as the evening breeze. "You don't have to thank me," Lucas replied with a smile. "Today was special for all of us, wasn't it?" "Yes, it truly was," Mia nodded, her eyes reflecting happiness. "And seeing the girls so happy means the world to me." "This is just the beginning, Mia," Lucas said, his voice filled with hope. "There are many more beautiful moments like this waiting for us ahead." Mia smiled. For the first time in many dark years, she truly believed that her future, and her children's future, would be filled with light and joy. When they arrived at the villa, Lucas carefully carried the sleeping twins into their room, tucking them into bed and gently pulling the blankets over them before turning off the lights. Mia stood quietly at the doorway, her heart swelling with warmth and emotion at the tenderness and devotion Lucas showed toward her family. That night, As she lay alone in her soft bed, Mia felt an overwhelming sense of peace, a lightness she hadn't felt in a long time. She knew she was finally ready to let go of the painful past and embrace a brighter future. Lucas had been right. Second chances do exist, and she would never take this precious opportunity for granted. A new beginning mornings at Lucas's villa were now filled with joyful chatter and boundless energy. Hannah and Lillian ran around the house, their infectious laughter bringing warmth to every corner, replacing the once quiet space with a newfound liveliness. Lucas, who had once lived a solitary life, focused only on work, was now adjusting to the rhythm of this new family dynamic. He was becoming more involved in the twins' daily lives, and more importantly, in Mia's journey of transformation and growth. One beautiful morning, as Mia was preparing to leave for class, Lucas unexpectedly invited her to attend an important company meeting with him. It was a rare opportunity for Mia to witness firsthand how Lucas managed his business, handled complex negotiations, and led his team. Although thrilled, Mia couldn't shake her nervousness. She feared making an embarrassing mistake or feeling completely out of place in such a professional setting. "Are you ready, Mia?" Lucas asked gently as he waited for her by the entrance, his gaze filled with warmth and confidence. "More or less. I just hope I don't mess things up for you," Mia replied, her voice slightly shaky with anxiety. "You'll do just fine, Mia," Lucas reassured her. "Believe in yourself." As the sleek car slowly pulled up in front of Lucas Enterprises headquarters, Mia was momentarily overwhelmed by the grandeur and magnificence of the towering building. Lucas guided her into the conference room, where several senior executives had already gathered. With a sense of pride, he introduced Mia to everyone, referring to her as a promising collaborator. His words, filled with sincerity and respect, made Mia feel both honored and a bit shy. Throughout the meeting, Mia listened attentively, absorbing every detail of the discussion. To her surprise, Lucas encouraged her to share some of her own ideas, a gesture that both startled and deeply moved her. Mia's valuable suggestions were met with an enthusiasm that exceeded all expectations from the executive directors. "You truly have a sharp vision and an admirably clear, logical mind," one of the executives exclaimed without hesitation. "Thank you, sir," Mia responded with a humble smile. "I still have so much to learn, but I feel deeply honored that my small ideas could contribute to the company's overall success." Lucas silently observed the entire interaction between Mia and his colleagues, a profound sense of joy and pride welling up within him. He had always believed in Mia's hidden potential, but seeing others recognize and appreciate her abilities brought him an even greater sense of satisfaction and happiness. After the resoundingly successful meeting, Lucas warmly invited Mia to a stylish cafe nearby. They chose a charming outdoor table under the shade of ancient trees, their branches forming a natural canopy. Now fully at ease, Mia ordered a steaming cup of cappuccino, its rich aroma filling the air. "You were absolutely amazing today," Lucas said sincerely, taking a sip of his coffee. His gaze never left Mia, filled with deep admiration. Mia smiled softly, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. "To be honest, I was incredibly nervous about this important meeting. But, I have to admit, the feeling of contributing ideas and being heard is truly exhilarating. I feel like I'm finally becoming an integral part of something meaningful." "This is just the beginning, Mia," Lucas said, his voice full of encouragement. "You are steadily building a strong foundation for your future, one that is bright and full of promise." Mia lifted her eyes to Lucas, her expression brimming with heartfelt gratitude. "Lucas, none of this would have been possible without you. You gave me confidence and an opportunity, even when I had completely lost faith in myself. Everything I achieved today is because of you." "No, Mia," Lucas gently shook his head, a kind smile gracing his lips. "The greatest credit belongs to you, to your relentless effort and unwavering determination." Their warm and meaningful moment was interrupted by the sharp ringing of a phone. Mia furrowed her brows slightly and picked up her phone, seeing the name, Mrs. Hannah, displayed on the screen. After a brief exchange, Mia sighed softly. "Lucas, Mrs. Hannah just called. She said that Hannah and Lillian won't stop calling my name." Lucas chuckled, his eyes shining with affectionate amusement. "It looks like my two little daughters are already missing their mother. They're always inseparable from you, like shadows that refuse to part, even for a single moment." Mia let out a light-hearted laugh, shaking her head in playful exasperation, her face radiating both fondness and helplessness. As they returned to the mansion together, the twin girls, Hannah and Lillian, eagerly ran out to greet their mother. They threw themselves into Mia's arms, nuzzling against her while excitedly chattering about the fun games they had played throughout the afternoon. Lucas quietly observed the warm and love-filled scene, a strange yet profound emotion swelling in his heart, a deepening bond with the two little girls he had come to cherish as his own. The boundless energy and pure laughter of Hannah and Lillian seemed to possess a magical power, capable of illuminating any space and dispelling all worries and gloom. On a golden-hued afternoon, with sunlight like honey, Lucas unexpectedly suggested a small picnic in the lush garden of the mansion. Hannah and Lillian were overjoyed and eagerly volunteered to help their mother and Lucas prepare the picnic basket. They carefully packed fragrant ham sandwiches, fresh, ripe fruits, and cool bottles of fruit juice, arranging everything with meticulous care and enthusiasm. Mia gently sat down on a soft blanket spread over the velvety green grass, her eyes following her daughters as they ran and played happily around Lucas. "You've become so much more at ease and natural around them," Mia remarked softly as Lucas settled beside her. "Hannah and Lillian are wonderful, lovable children," Lucas replied, his eyes filled with tenderness. "It's impossible not to love them and feel connected to them." "Thank you, Lucas," Mia said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for being so kind to us. The girls feel safe and happy when they're with you, and that's all I've ever wished for." Lucas smiled gently, his gaze filled with warmth. "Hannah and Lillian have become an irreplaceable part of my life, Mia. And having you by my side, that's more than enough for me." His sincere and heartfelt words touched Mia in the deepest way. Her heart pounded wildly, skipping beats. She knew that her feelings for Lucas had long surpassed mere gratitude, yet a lingering fear, an apprehension of opening her heart once more, still held her back, keeping her from taking another step forward. As night fell, Hannah and Lillian, exhausted from their day of play, finally drifted off to sleep in their mother's warm embrace. Lucas tenderly helped Mia carry the girls to their beds, and together, they carefully tucked their little angels in. As they stepped out into the quiet hallway, Mia suddenly paused, her eyes soft as they met Lucas's. "Lucas," she murmured, her voice trembling slightly, "you have changed our lives completely." "I know," Lucas replied, his eyes mirroring the depth of emotion in hers. "And you have changed mine too, Mia." The intensity and love in Lucas's gaze made Mia feel both vulnerable and profoundly safe. In that moment, she realized she could no longer deny or ignore the emotions surging within her heart. Late that evening, as Mia busied herself in the kitchen, preparing a cup of hot tea, Lucas unexpectedly stepped in. He stood quietly for a moment, watching her every movement before slowly approaching. "Mia," Lucas said softly, his voice deep and gentle. "There's something I need to tell you." Mia turned to face him, her heart racing like a drum. What is it?" she asked, her voice slightly unsteady. Lucas hesitated for a brief moment, taking a deep breath before finally voicing the thoughts he had kept hidden for so long. "Mia, ever since you stepped into this house, my life has changed completely. You and the girls have brought something into my world that is beyond precious, something I never even realized I had been missing all along." His voice grew even more earnest, more fervent. I care about you, Mia," Lucas admitted, his gaze unwavering. "I care about you more than words can ever express." Lucas's unexpected yet heartfelt confession crashed over Mia like a tidal wave, washing away every ounce of her resistance and doubt. For a brief, stunned moment, she didn't know how to respond. But then, slowly, a radiant, joyful smile bloomed on her lips, and her eyes sparkled like the stars. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice as soft as a spring breeze, I care about you too. But all of this still feels so new to me," she continued, her voice tinged with hesitation. I need time to process everything." Lucas nodded gently, respecting her honesty and sincerity. "I understand, Mia," he said warmly. "And I don't expect you to make any decisions right away. I just wanted you to know how I feel." Their tender, intimate moment was once again interrupted by a small sound from upstairs. Hannah had woken up and was calling for her mother. Mia smiled softly and hurried toward the staircase to tend to her little girl. Lucas remained in the warm, quiet kitchen, exhaling a thoughtful sigh as he gazed at the steaming cup of cappuccino on the counter. Winning Mia's heart completely and earning her full trust would take time and patience. But he knew, without a doubt, that the love he felt for her and the girls was worth every second of waiting. In the days that followed, Lucas and Mia's relationship continued to grow, slowly, steadily, built upon small moments of care, understanding, and quiet affection. Over time, Mia found herself opening up more, gradually shedding her fears and uncertainties. Meanwhile, Lucas remained steadfast, giving her the space she needed to heal and rebuild her trust and love. The road ahead of them was still long, still uncertain, but neither of them felt afraid. Because they both knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they had each other, a loyal companion, a steadfast heart, and a love that would endure. The Chicago sky was gloomy, shrouded in a thick veil of fog like a gray curtain, signaling an impending storm. Mia sat in Lucas's office, intently reviewing the reports he had assigned to her. Her eyes were focused, but inside a newfound sense of confidence swelled. She had improved tremendously, but still maintained the necessary caution of someone who understood how much this job meant to her new life. Lucas walked into the room, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. He placed one beside Mia before sitting across from her. He observed her quietly for a moment before speaking. "You're doing really well, Mia. You know that, right?" Mia looked up, surprised by the gentleness in his voice. I'm doing my best. But I still feel like there's room for improvement." Lucas smiled, his eyes unusually warm. "You're always so hard on yourself, and that's a good thing. But I want you to know that I'm proud of everything you've accomplished." A flush crept onto Mia's cheeks, and she quickly turned away, focusing on her computer screen. His words were more than just professional praise. There was warmth in his voice that she couldn't ignore. Time seemed to pass quickly as their relationship naturally deepened. Lucas always found ways to show his care, through small gestures, thoughtful acts, and words that made Mia feel special. She found herself slowly lowering the walls she had carefully built, though a quiet vigilance still lingered within her. One night, after the twins had fallen asleep, Lucas suggested they go up to the rooftop of the mansion. Mia hesitated for a moment, but let curiosity lead the way. As they stepped outside, she was taken aback by the breathtaking view before her. The city lights shimmered like fallen stars, stretching across the vast, dark sky. The cool night air carried a peaceful silence, a stark contrast to Chicago's usual bustling chaos. Lucas stood beside her, watching how the city's glow reflected in her eyes. "I used to come here whenever I needed to think," he finally said. "But lately, I don't feel the need to anymore." He turned to her, his gaze deep and steady. "I think it's because I've found something that brings me more peace." Mia faced him, sensing something unspoken beneath his words. "And what is it that gives you that peace, Lucas?" Without hesitation, he answered, "You." His words caught her off guard, and for a moment, she was speechless. Lucas stepped closer, closing the space between them. "From the moment I saw you that night," he said, his voice low and steady, "something inside me changed. And as we spent more time together, I realized that what I feel for you, it's unlike anything I've ever known." Mia's heart pounded. She knew her feelings for Lucas were growing, but hearing him say it aloud made it all feel more real. "Lucas, all of this is so new to me," she admitted, her voice slightly trembling. "I'm still trying to find my footing, to be strong for myself and my children. I don't want you to feel like you have to rush me." "Mia," Lucas said gently, "I just want you to know how I feel." She took a deep breath, meeting his gaze. There was honesty in his eyes, an honesty she couldn't ignore. And for the first time in years, she felt safe enough to open her heart again. "I do have feelings for you, Lucas," she confessed. "But I need time. I need to be sure I'm ready to move forward." Lucas nodded, respecting her hesitation. "I'll wait, as long as it takes." Their moment was interrupted by the distant rumble of thunder, signaling the storm's arrival. Mia glanced at the horizon, feeling the cool breeze against her skin. "We should go inside before it starts raining," she suggested. Lucas agreed. But there was a glint in his eyes that told Mia this conversation had changed something between them. In the days that followed, the emotional tension between Mia and Lucas grew. There was an unspoken intensity in their interactions, as if they were both trying to navigate the fine line between work and personal feelings. One evening, Lucas decided to surprise Mia with a special dinner. He had arranged for the housekeeper to look after the twins and had personally prepared a romantic meal for the two of them. When Mia walked downstairs and saw the elegantly set table, she was at a loss for words. "You did all of this?" she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "I wanted to do something special for you," he replied with a warm smile. During dinner, they talked about everything: work, childhood memories, dreams for the future. Their conversation flowed naturally, and they felt more at ease with each other than ever before. "I never thought I'd have this chance to start over," Mia said thoughtfully. "And if it weren't for you, Lucas, I don't know where we'd be." You'd be somewhere, fighting like you always do, Lucas responded. I've just had the honor of standing by your side. But more than that, when I believed in you when no one else did, that made all the difference. Lucas reached across the table, taking her hand in his. I will always believe in you, Mia. His touch was warm and reassuring, and Mia felt the walls she had built over the years beginning to crumble. She was still afraid, but she knew Lucas was unlike anyone she had ever met. As dinner ended, Lucas walked her to her bedroom door. For a moment, they stood in silence, simply looking into each other's eyes. Late at night, Lucas gently wished Mia good night with a soft smile. As she closed the door to her room, she leaned against it, feeling her heart racing. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of a future that wasn't lonely. Meanwhile, Lucas walked down the stairs with a satisfied smile on his lips. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be paved with roses, but he was willing to face every challenge to win Mia's heart. That night, as the rain began to pour, they both drifted into sleep with a renewed sense of hope, as if a brighter future was slowly unfolding before them. Life for Mia and Lucas went on smoothly, even better than they had expected. The twin girls grew more attached to Lucas, and he, in turn, showed them genuine affection. However, deep down, Mia still harbored some doubts. Not about Lucas's feelings, but about whether she was truly ready to place her trust in someone again. One afternoon, as Mia was engrossed in reviewing reports in her office, her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Opening it, she found a picture of Lucas speaking with an elegant woman at an upscale restaurant. The caption was brief yet full of implication. Do you really know who he is? Mia's heart nearly stopped. She knew Lucas had a social life and professional relationships, but this message sent a wave of uncertainty crashing over her. The doubts she had worked so hard to push away suddenly resurfaced. Who is this woman? And why would someone send her a message like this? Lucas came home later than usual that evening. He looked relaxed, but as soon as he saw Mia sitting in the living room with the twins playing nearby, he sensed something was wrong. Are you okay? He asked, sitting down beside her. Mia hesitated for a moment before showing him the message. Lucas frowned as he examined the picture. It was a business meeting. She's a consultant. We're hiring for a new project. Mia wanted to believe him, but the message had cast a shadow over her trust. Why would someone send this to me? It feels like a warning. I don't know, but I'll find out, Lucas said, his voice calm yet firm. Mia, you have to trust me. I would never do anything to hurt you. His voice was so sincere that Mia couldn't ignore it. She looked into his eyes and saw the transparency of someone with nothing to hide. I want to trust you, Lucas. But this caught me off guard. My whole life has been filled with disappointments. It's hard to ignore this fear. Lucas gently took her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. I understand, Mia. I won't pressure you. I just want you to know that I'm here, beside you, ready to face everything with you. In the following days, Lucas investigated the source of the message and discovered that it had been sent by a disgruntled former employee he had fired months ago. He showed Mia the proof, reassuring her that there was nothing to fear. Mia felt both relieved and guilty. She knew she was still learning how to trust again, but she also realized that Lucas was willing to do everything he could to ensure her emotional security. One night, after putting the twins to bed, Mia went to Lucas's office. He was focused on some documents, but looked up as she entered. Can we talk? She asked, closing the door behind her. Of course, Lucas replied. What's on your mind? Mia sat down across from him and took a deep breath. I want to apologize for doubting you. That message shook me, but it's not an excuse for not trusting you. You've always been honest with me, and I need to be fair to you. Lucas gave her a gentle smile. You don't have to apologize, Mia. I know how hard it is for you to let your guard down. I'm here to help, not to judge. His words touched something deep inside her, and she felt tears welling in her eyes. You're so different from anyone I've ever known, Lucas. That scares me, but it also makes me want to believe that I can be happy again. Lucas stood up and walked over to her, kneeling beside her. He gently wiped away the tear that had escaped down her cheek. You can be happy, Mia, and you don't have to do it alone. That night, something changed between them. The walls Mia had spent years building finally began to crumble. The following days passed quickly, filled with sweet and meaningful moments. Lucas remained patient and devoted, while Mia gradually allowed herself to trust him completely. One afternoon, as they strolled through the park with Hannah and Lillian, Lucas watched Mia play with the children. In that moment, he felt an unshakable certainty. This was the life he had always longed for. He wanted to be with Mia and the two little girls forever. When they returned home, Lucas asked the housekeeper to watch over the children for a few hours, then led Mia to the rooftop of the mansion, the place where they had shared an important conversation months ago. "Mia, there's something I want to say," Lucas said, his gaze steady. Mia's heart pounded. "What is it, Lucas?" Reaching into his pocket, Lucas pulled out a small box. He flipped it open, revealing an elegant ring that sparkled under the golden hues of the sunset. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you and the girls. You've brought light and joy into my life in ways I never imagined possible. Mia, will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as she covered her mouth in overwhelming emotion. "Lucas, I do." Smiling, Lucas slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a tight embrace. The storms that had once defined their journey had finally passed, and they were ready to begin a new chapter together. As the two little girls slept soundly in the next room, Mia and Lucas spoke about their future plans. A simple yet warm wedding filled with love, a life built on the foundation of trust and respect they had carefully nurtured. That night was only the beginning of a long journey ahead, one filled with happiness and challenges they would face together as a true family. Preparations for Mia and Lucas's wedding began. Everything was kept simple, but it held immense significance for them. Mia wanted an intimate ceremony with only those who were truly part of her new life. Hannah and Lillian were thrilled at the idea of being flower girls. Lucas involved them in every step, from choosing flowers to picking out dresses. Despite the overwhelming joy, Mia knew she had to confront one final shadow from her past. While she had accepted that the twins' biological father, James, would never take responsibility, she felt the need to see him one last time. "Lucas, I need to talk to James," Mia said one evening while they were on the rooftop. Lucas frowned, concerned. "Do you really think that's necessary?" "Yes. Not for him, but for me. I need to close this chapter once and for all." Lucas took her hand, his eyes full of understanding. "If that's what you need, I'll be here for you." The next day, Lon found James's address. Mia decided to meet him alone, but knowing Lucas was just a call away reassured her. When she arrived, she saw James standing outside a small bar. He looked worn down by time and the choices he had made in life. "Mia," he said, surprised to see her. "Yes, it's me. We need to talk." James sighed and gestured for her to follow him to a corner table inside. He looked restless, as if hoping this meeting wouldn't last long. "Why are you here?" he asked in a tired voice. "I'm here to tell you that I expect nothing from you anymore. You made your choice years ago. But our daughters deserve to know that I did everything I could to give them the best life possible. And now I have to move on." James remained silent, staring at his empty glass. "I know I failed, Mia. But I don't know how to be a father. I never have. But I guess it doesn't matter anymore. They already have someone who loves them as if they were his own. Lucas is everything I never was and never will be." James didn't respond, but his eyes showed he understood the weight of Mia's words. She stood up, feeling that she had finally said everything she needed to. As she walked away from the bar, a sense of relief washed over her, one she hadn't felt in years. When she returned home, she found Lucas in the yard, helping the two little girls build a play tent. "How did it go?" he asked as she approached. "It went the way it needed to. Now I'm truly ready to move forward." Lucas smiled and pulled her into his arms. "I'm proud of you." In the days that followed, Mia poured her heart into preparing for the wedding and the new life she was about to begin with Lucas and the girls. At last, she had found a true home, not just in a physical space, but in the love she shared with Lucas and in the laughter of Hannah and Lillian. On the morning of the wedding, Mia felt nervous yet radiant as she slipped into her elegant white dress. She gazed at her reflection in the mirror, marveling at how drastically her life had changed. The two little girls, dressed like tiny princesses, ran into the room, holding the wedding bouquet. "Mommy, you look so beautiful," Hannah exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "Thank you, sweetheart," Mia replied. "And you too look absolutely lovely." With her heart full of emotions, Mia walked down the aisle, where Lucas was waiting for her. Their eyes met, and in that moment, all of her doubts melted away. The wedding was simple, yet filled with profound love and meaning. Every word in their vows reaffirmed the bond they had carefully built, not just as a couple, but as a family united in love and trust. When the ceremony ended, Hannah and Lillian rushed into Mia and Lucas's arms, cheering with happiness. The future, which once seemed uncertain, was now a promise of joy and unity. After the wedding, Lucas's mansion became more vibrant than ever. Hannah and Lillian, quickly embraced the idea of a complete family, and Mia felt like she had finally found her place in the world. Their days were filled with laughter and tender moments as she and Lucas built new routines together. On the first morning after their wedding, Mia woke up to the sound of birds chirping in the garden. She turned and saw Lucas beside her, looking at her with a peaceful smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Lucas," he said. She smiled, still getting used to her new name. "Good morning. Ready to start our new life?" "More than ready," he replied. The first months of their marriage were filled with gratitude and renewal. Lucas supported Mia in balancing work and studies while remaining a devoted father to Hannah and Lillian. He made it a point to be present for every significant moment in their lives, from small school achievements to bedtime stories. One afternoon, while organizing some paperwork in her office, Mia began to feel dizzy. Assuming it was just fatigue, she decided to rest. However, the symptoms persisted over the next few days. Lucas noticed her exhaustion and insisted she see a doctor. "It's just exhaustion, Lucas. I'm fine," she said, trying to reassure him. "Maybe, but a checkup won't hurt." "I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself," he insisted. Reluctantly, Mia agreed and scheduled an appointment. She felt a little anxious, but didn't expect any major news. However, after routine tests, the doctor delivered news that would once again change their lives. "Congratulations, Mrs. Lucas. You're pregnant." Mia sat in silence for a moment, processing what she had just heard. Pregnant. The thought of having a child with Lucas overwhelmed her mind. She felt both joy and surprise. When she returned home, she found Lucas in the living room, playing with Hannah and Lillian. His smile reassured her that this was the perfect moment to share the news. "Lucas, can we talk for a moment?" she asked. Sensing the seriousness in her voice, he asked the girls to play in their room. Once they were alone, Lucas stepped closer, curious. "What is it, Mia?" Mia took a deep breath, trying to contain her emotions. "Lucas, I went to the doctor today, and I found out I'm pregnant." For a moment, Lucas remained silent, processing her words. Then, a radiant smile spread across his face. "You're pregnant?" She nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "Yes, we're having a baby." Lucas pulled her into a tight embrace, his heart overflowing with joy. "This is incredible, Mia. I don't even know what to say." The following weeks were filled with excitement as they began preparing for the new addition to their family. Hannah and Lillian were thrilled to hear they would have a baby brother or sister, and eagerly helped Mia pick out clothes and decorate the nursery. One quiet evening, as they watched the twins sleep peacefully, Lucas and Mia reflected on everything they had been through to reach this moment. "It feels like we've been through so much in such a short time," Mia said softly, gently touching her growing belly. "And every challenge led us to this. I'm happier than I ever thought I could be," she smiled, grateful to have Lucas by her side. Though they had faced many hardships, they knew they were now building a life filled with love and hope. The pregnancy brought their family even closer together. Lucas was always attentive, ensuring Mia was comfortable, while Hannah and Lillian could hardly wait for their baby sibling to arrive. Every detail of their planning was filled with care and joy. However, like any journey, there were moments of concern. During a routine checkup, the doctor advised Mia to rest more due to a slight risk of complications. Upon hearing this, Lucas became even more attentive, taking on more daily responsibilities to ensure Mia could relax. "I don't want you to worry about anything except taking care of yourself and the baby," he said firmly yet gently. Mia chuckled softly. "You're spoiling me too much, Lucas." "You deserve all the care in the world," Lucas replied. The months passed, and before they knew it, the due date was approaching. One quiet evening, as a gentle breeze rustled the curtains, Mia went into labor. Lucas remained calm, despite his evident emotions, and quickly took her to the hospital. Hours later, the cry of a newborn filled the delivery room, bringing indescribable joy to everyone's hearts. It was a strong and healthy baby boy. Lucas held him in his arms, overwhelmed with emotion, while Mia watched them both with tears of happiness. "Welcome to the family, my son," Lucas said, his voice filled with emotion. Hannah and Lillian, eagerly waiting in the hallway, were brought in to meet their baby brother. They were ecstatic, promising to always take care of and protect him. Life at Lucas's mansion now felt complete. What once seemed like an impossible family had become a shining example of love, unity, and resilience. Every challenge had made them stronger, and the future was brighter than ever. As Lucas held their newborn son, and the twins played nearby, Mia felt she had finally found what she had always longed for, a home filled with love and people who would do anything for one another.